الفاتح. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد سيد الأولين والآخرين. مدد يا رسول الله، مدد يا سادة أصحاب الرسول، مدد يا مشايخ الدستور مولانا شاء الله فاز شيخ محمد نازم حقان، مدد طريقتنا الصحبة والخير في الجمعية. فإمام الرحمن صلى الله عليه وسلم كلامه استمد.
Our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, does not want us and did not want his companions and does not want us to be angry. And when our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, was asked for advice, his advice to the companion, to one of his companions, was, do not get angry.
tatmin edip de başkalarına zulmetmek için öfkelenme diyor. La tagdab diyor.
And what it means to not become angry in these terms is, our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, warns us to not become angry for the sake of our ego, and to not become angry and thus oppress others in order to satisfy our ego's desires.
Allah yolunda, hak yolunda o makbul bir şeydir.
But however, it is acceptable and we must be angry with those things that oppose Allah Almighty.
Elinden geldiği kadar öfkeleneceksin Allah'a karşı olan şeylere karşı.
And as much as we can, we must not accept those and what is against Allah Almighty, but must reject it, and of course be angry with those and that are against Allah Almighty.
Onları razı olmayacaksın.
We must not accept and not approve of those things which are or who are against Allah Almighty.
Elinden geldiği kadar mani olmaya ulaşacaksın.
And as much as we can, we must prevent those things which are against Allah Almighty.
Yapamazsan tabii konuşarak da yapamazsan kalbinden buğz edeceksin.
We must prevent those things which are against Allah Almighty, and if we cannot prevent them, we should at least speak up against them. And if that is too much too, then the least we can do is by rejecting it in our hearts.
Bunu kabul etmeyeceksin.
We must never accept what is against Allah Almighty.
Bu Allah'ın sevmediği şey, Peygamber'in sevmediği şeydir.
We must make clear that we do not accept what is against Allah Almighty. We do not accept what Allah Almighty disliked, and we do not accept what our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, disliked.
Bunu tamam olur filan, musamaha, tolerans filan diye onlar boş laflar.
We must never give in to those things which are against Allah Almighty, and we must not never tolerate those things which are against Allah Almighty.
Yapamıyorsun doğru. Şimdi çoğu zaman, bu zamanda yaşadığımız zaman.
Of course, it is a different matter that one may not be capable of these days to prevent those things. Especially today, it is difficult to prevent those things.
Bir şey dedik mi, bir şey söylemeye kalkarsan daha kötü olabiliyor.
Because these days, when you speak up, things may become actually worse.
Daha beter oluyor. Onun için kalbinden bu normal bir şey değil.
However, the least we must do is to not accept in our hearts and to beware in our hearts that those things which are against Allah Almighty are not the normal and should not be the normal, and we must never approve of them.
İnsanlık için de normal değil, İslam için de normal bir şey değil.
Those things which are against Allah Almighty are not only against Allah Almighty, but they are also against humanity.
Bunu öyle kabul edip de hadi isteyip de geçirmeye nefsin kabul etmesin.
And we must never give in, and those are things we must never tolerate, and we must never give our ego the opportunity to consider those things which are against Allah Almighty as normal.
Bu gördüğümüz şey Allah'ın sevmediği şey, biz de sevmiyoruz.
If there's something, if we see something that Allah Almighty does not like, we must never like it and we must reject it.
Bir şey yapamıyoruz ama kalbimizden kalbimizde ona karşı olsun.
We may not prevent it, we may not say something against it, but the least we must do is to reject it in our hearts.
Dışarımıza karşı olamıyor ama içimiz ona karşı olsun.
Outwardly, externally, we cannot oppose those things which are against Allah Almighty, but we must have a firm positioning against those things which are against Allah Almighty, at least in our inside.
Çünkü onu kabul edersen Allah muhafaza etsin. Sonra sen de yavaş yavaş onu da sen de yapmaya başlarsın.
Because if you approve of those things in your heart and tolerate them in your heart and have not a clear position in your heart against those things which are against Allah Almighty, your ego will slowly adopt that behavior and those things which are against Allah Almighty.
Onun için nerede şey yaparsan, bu kötü şeyleri görürsen bizim buna kabulümüz yok.
Therefore, whenever you see something bad, you must make clear, at least from your inside, that you do not accept this.
Bunu kabul etmeyiz, bunu sevmeyiz.
We do not accept it and we do not like it.
Ne için sevmiyoruz?
And why do we not like it?
Allah Azzawajal sevmediği için.
Because Allah Almighty does not like it.
Peygamberimiz sevmediği için.
Because our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, does not like it.
Allah'ın sevdiğini severiz.
We love what Allah Almighty loves.
Sevmediğini sevmeyiz.
And we dislike what He Almighty dislikes.
Dışarıdan bir şey söylemesek de içimize kimse hükmedemez.
Even if they prevent us from speaking up, however, they cannot control our inside.
Allah'tan başka.
Only Allah Almighty can control our inside.
Onun için adafül iman. İmanın en zayıf zamanında yaşıyoruz şimdi biz.
We now live in the time when faith is at its lower stage.
Onun için kalbimizden onu kabul etmeyelim.
And this is the lowest sign of faith we can demonstrate, is by at least rejecting things that oppose Allah Almighty in our hearts.
Onu karşı olalım.
We must be against those things which oppose Allah Almighty.
Onun da ecri var. Öteki türlü
And there is a reward in opposing those things.
dediğimiz gibi onun zararı var.
However, if we do not clearly oppose those things which are against Allah Almighty, if we approve of them, tolerate them, we are running a great risk.
Onu kabul etmek, onu müsamaha etmek, tamam deyip de ona karşı gelmemek, işten bile olsa imanını bitirir.
If we tolerate those things, if we do not oppose them inside, we are running the danger of ruining and losing our faith.
İman zayıftır, iman da kalmaz ondan sonra.
Faith is weak, and if we do not make a clear position against them, at least in our inside, but tolerate them and slowly approve of them, we will be losing our faith.
Allah muhafaza etsin.
May Allah Almighty protect us from losing our faith.
Allah bu zamanın şerrinden, dünyanın her tarafında var bu sırf.
May Allah Almighty protect us from the evil and the corruption of today's time, and this evil, this corruption can be witnessed throughout the entire world.
Bir yerde değil. Şimdi
This is not only present in one place.
tam kara cehalet zamanında yaşıyoruz.
We now live in an age of darkness, of the darkness of ignorance.
İlmin en yüksek zamanı zaten bilimin en yüksek zamanı. Bilim de Allah'ın Azze ve Celle'nin ilminin bilmin yanında sıfır bile değil.
They say that we now live in the time, in the age of technology, in the age of knowledge and science, and they say that science, knowledge is most advanced in our time, but compared to Allah Almighty's knowledge, science is not even nothing.
Onun için tam cehalet zamanında yaşıyoruz.
And so we now live in a time of complete ignorance.
Cahil kendini bilmiş zannediyor.
And the sign of us living in a time of ignorance is that people think of themselves to be something.
Her şeyi biliyorum zannediyor.
It is the ignorant who claims to know everything.
Halbuki kapkaranlık cehalet zamanında yaşıyoruz.
But we live in the time of complete ignorance and complete darkness.
Allah muhafaza etsin.
May Allah Almighty protect us.
Bu münkerleri de kabul etmiyoruz.
And we make a clear stand against those things which are against Allah Almighty, and we do not approve of them, and we reject them.
Allah sabit kadam kılsın bizi.
May Allah Almighty make us be steadfast on following His way.
Allah insanlara da hidayet versin.
And may Allah Almighty guide people in general.
Amin. Allah tevfik. El-Fatih.